G'day, it's Heath here from pickandlessons.com. In this mandolin lesson, we're going to take a look at an arpeggio study. We're playing purely arpeggio notes through what you heard there in the beginning. Just arpeggio notes, no passing notes whatsoever. This is the next lesson in a series at pickandlessons.com on arpeggios. So we have Arpeggios 101 where you get to learn the shapes. So if you don't know the arpeggio shapes yet, I'd suggest starting there. We have a look at some arpeggio licks and then blending some arpeggios with minor scales as well to form some licks. This lesson is really just a study, so an exercise for the arpeggio shapes. And we're moving around the entire fretboard really up to that 10th fret region there. So it's a good span of the fretboard we're working on. Lots of fingers, all four fingers involved, all four strings. We're moving around quite a bit. So we're working on our arpeggios, but we're also working on left-hand technique. We'll also be working on right-hand technique. So sometimes we're alternating, sometimes we're playing a follow-through technique, depending on the sequence of notes we have in the melody. In a moment, we're going to take a look at the first 8 bars of part A. So we have two sections. We have 16 bars in part A and 8 bars in part B. We'll have a look at the first 8 bars here of part A. But if you head to pickandlessons.com, you're able to get yourself the tablature that we're working from, the notations in there as well. You'll also find the next part of this lesson where we do break down the remainder of the tune and look at the arpeggios we're using there. So pickandlessons.com. Okay, so let's start out with a slow play through the first 8 measures. Then we'll break it down, look at some of the positions and just talk about what technique we really need to focus on left hand, but for right hand as well. 1 and 2 and Okay, so part A, first 8 measures of part A there. We're in the key of D minor, and so far what we've come across is the D minor position arpeggio, an A position, an A7, a D minor again, then into a G minor. So key of D minor here, so we're following the chord changes there. D minor A, A7, a G minor as well so far. Now, we're starting out in the open position, but we certainly move up the neck as well. So this first position of the D minor arpeggio, we're kicking it off on that root note there, the D. If you're not too familiar with the notes on the fretboard, as I'm going to refer to the D and the F and so on, have a look at the fretboard freedom lesson at pickandlessons.com. There we start to cover learning the notes on the fretboard, which is really crucial when you're talking about these arpeggios and being able to move them around. So we're in D minor, D position there, open A, F, and open D. Then we're moving up into a higher F and then an A as well. So D, F, and A are the 3 notes that make up our D minor chord, D, F, and A. Picking pattern that I'm using there, I'm going down, up, down, up, down. I'm basically playing what we call a follow-through technique. Alternate on the same string. When you move to another string, pick it in the direction you're moving. For example, down, up to the F note there, string 3, down, up, alternate on string 2, down, up, continue that movement, the up direction, the upward direction there to string 3. So down, up, down, up, down. I haven't placed the picking direction in the tablature because you'll find perhaps that you prefer a certain way of doing this. I didn't want to say one way or the other. A 6/8 time signature sometimes lends itself to going down, up, down, up, down. 3 notes per grouping. Down, up, down with an accent. 1, 2, 1, 2 beats. Down, up, down, up, down. So that's kind of a nice way of approaching it. You can do that. You can just do that, or you could straight alternate. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, all the way through. I think it's more efficient and actually easier to play and use the follow-through technique. So one more time, down, up, down, alternate on the same string, continue your pick movement to the following string, whichever direction that might be. Let's try that in the next measure. So in measure 2, down, follow through, down, up, down. So first 2 measures, D minor, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Depending on what's coming before and after. So follow through technique. Let's move on to the A position. Again, we're in the open position here. So the A, then into an A7, using that G note from the A7 chord. So using, again, picking method that you prefer. I'm using the follow through technique still. And in this open position, remembering your fingers are really going to be covering the frets here. First finger covers the first 2 frets, second the next 2, third and fourth, and the third finger can cover 5 and 6. Little finger can be 7. Now that will change if we shift up the neck as we will, but at the moment, open position, that's a great fingering choice to make. You can modify it if you need to, that's fine, but it's a nice starting point. So that A position, open position, down to the C sharp there, and then we're going to turn around via the G, which makes it an A7. So once through the A7, ready, and. Next measure we get the D minor again. So the D minor though, we're moving up the neck. So firstly, start with third finger, we're in the open position, but then switch to finger 1 so we can then climb up. So we have. And we're kind of taking this up, back, up, back, up, back movement within the arpeggio. So from that first position, all the same string there, so just alternating your picking, perhaps a little follow through here. First finger is going to take over there, and little finger with your third finger there on fret 8. So just keep an eye on the fingerings. The fingerings are marked there. There really is a better choice you can make, which I've added to the music. Now, one more time through this D minor, open position up the neck. Still just using arpeggio notes. So D, F, A, D, D, A, F, D. So we're using the D, F and A notes for the D minor. Moving on to just finish up this part of the lesson, the G minor is up next, and we're actually kicking it off on the G note there at fret 10, string 2. And we're going to come down through the arpeggio all the way to the open G. So high G to the D to the B flat to the G to the open D to the B flat to the G. So we're traveling in that pitch-wise descending direction. But then we turn around and head up through the open position to the high G there, just skipping that D note on the end. So the G minor from the top. That last part, third, first, second finger, which will help us get into the next part of the study, which moves into D minor. So we're covering just arpeggios. No passing notes whatsoever. So it's very unique, but it sounds really cool, and this type of study sounds very classical. So it's a bit of fun to play. It's really fun to play. Great work and great exercise for your left hand and for your picking hand too. So it really makes you think. And if you can really start to understand your positions every time you switch chords, so you're thinking D minor, then you're thinking A and A7 and thinking G minor. If you're thinking those changes as you move your way through, that will help you when you're improvising. When you're playing later on, you're thinking a D minor because you're playing a D minor tune, and you're thinking what notes are going to be working beyond your scale notes. You can start to think arpeggio notes. So we're just drilling in these arpeggios in a study, in an exercise right now, but will certainly help reinforce your knowledge of those shapes for when you're improvising. All right, so head over to pickandlessons.com. We will continue this. We'll finish off part A, and then we'll have a look at part B as well. You'll get the tablature notation that we're working from. You'll also have an MP3 play along track you can download too, and put it in your slow downer and have a practice with that as well. So pickandlessons.com. See you there.